See you, John Channel here over at Subscribe. So I got a mailbox if you want to mail me some comics or send me coffee or something. So Barbie's white feminism is problematic. No, it's not. I think these people are the problem. So this is another brilliant take from the idiots at the Mary Sue, and honestly, idiot might be being too kind. People think the Mary Sue. You read the writers, and you probably don't make the connection to look at the corporate structure of it. You think, oh, it's this these women and a couple of token guys there are putting this thing together. You think, oh, you assume like one of them started it. No, the Mary Sue is totally astroturfed. It was started by some corporate publisher who just hired people, and then it got bought out by another corporate publisher. It's complete. It's not some grassroots thing like it kind of vaguely leads you to believe when you start looking at, like, look who always follow the money on websites and stuff, and look who actually owns it. This is just a corporate whore site used to spread this developmentally disabled propaganda. So they're idiots, but I love reading the Mary Sue and the Daily Stormer. I read those every day. Like, you Hugo Boss, because they're both funny, but they're just funny in different ways. And if you don't have a sense of humor, then you're probably not going to find one of them funny. So it lets you know how they, and the thing is, it's kind of like two opposite ends of the spectrum, comedy-wise. I mean, that guy, who's that guy, Anglin? He's a really good writer. I wish he'd be actually a little bit more serious and less like just try. A lot of it is he's trying to be offensive just to be offensive. I think that's kind of juvenile. Anyway, but it lets you know how the people to Mary Sue think, and why, if you're a left wing person of the light, or just of European descent at all, why you have to stop reaching across the aisle with these absolute parasites. They're always going to move the goalposts. At some point, you just have to stop and go, oh, all this like feminism, socialism, liberalism, all this is just toxic cancer. It's like it's time to go in a different direction. And hopefully the fair feminists have an awakening when they realize that this globalist feminist push is not based on anything other than to be a weapon for their hatred of all things European. They've pretty much gone mask off with this. They use things as cloaks, but they don't really care about equal justice or feminism or liberalism. That's like not at all. If they just care about hating you and your tribe, they don't have issues with problematic behavior of individuals or groups. They just have an incandescent hatred of European people. If they wanted a better world, they would also equally attack problematic behavior of Black, Latin, Jew, Asian women. They don't. Not at all. It's only your tribe. They don't care about any other issues other than degrading and dehumanizing one group of people who look like you. If you, the people of the light, if you want to turn this all around, all you have to do is start by having high in-group preferences, and to look at this whole left-wing movement and realize it's not what you thought it was. It's a mistake. And form groups that exclude these types of outsiders and start attacking them with their shortcomings, of which they have many. Just all that Frankfurt School, Saul Alinsky cultural Bolshevik language they use, you can just turn it all around and apply it to them, even if it sounds nonsensical to you at first. I do it on Twitter all the time. As long as you're sincere, it's actually, it's so much fun calling yourself marginalized and oppressed and disenfranchised, because like everything's an appeal to emotion. And so once they put appeal to emotion on the table for argument, they can't suddenly go back to facts and reason. You're like, which one is it? So you can answer back with appeals to emotion. I feel we're marginalized and oppressed, and if I feel it, it's valid. I identify as well, whatever you want to identify. Anyway, so the woke left can see the most abhorrent behavior by any other group of people. And, nowadays, because of, cell phones and social media and old social media, people are putting videos up. People see what's going on. The cell phone has been the great equalizer, because people are finally seeing like, there's a narrative in the mainstream media. And then I turn on Twitter, Telegram, Gab, and all these other sites, BitChute and Odyssey, and I'm seeing something else. Like YouTube won't allow certain videos. I still have an alternate news channel, and YouTube, if you post the videos, they'll just take them down for some kind of incitement. It's like you're just posting a factual video, or eventually they'll start giving you strikes for some kind of hate speech. You're like, but that's just a news video, but it just doesn't fit your narrative, so YouTube won't allow it. But the thing is, all the other platforms do allow it, so people are kind of seeing what's going on. So the woke left can see this most abhorrent behavior by all these other groups of people, and they won't comment on it, including horrific anti-white racism or anti-Asian. They just ignore it. It cannot exist for their worldview to work. Everything has to be blamed on one group of people, your group, and you're innocent. They're the problem, and it's time to just start admitting that, like, all the nonsense things they say about you, you just have to realize, oh no, these people are the problem. We're awesome. We've never been the problem. If you watch the news and the alt news, you know we're not the problem. We make everything better. More people just need to get comfortable admitting this. And, like, stop trying to reach across the aisle. They're moving the goalposts. Stop trying to placate them. Just be among your own group of people and start openly advocating for that. You realize, yeah, you're right. This stuff totally isn't working out. I'm tired of the constant conflict. At one time I would not have said this, but now I look at the endless conflict and realize, oh, it's better to just not hang around in conflict situations, not be in each other's spaces. And then as soon as you say that, they start backpedaling like crazy for some reason. Like, oh, no, we don't have to go that far. Like, why not? Why not just have separate spaces? I'm tired of the endless conflict. It's like, it didn't have to be this way, but it is this way. Like, this is the issue. And we're not the problem. We know we're not the problem in any situation, but this mainstream media narrative is we're the problem. And you're like, yeah, I think there's something deeper going on with the media. It's like, no shit, Bianca. So modern feminism has been completely taken over by these anti-white globalists. It's not about feminism. They don't care about that. It's been subverted and corrupted into just another vector to push globalism. Feminism can be warped and corrupted to push anything they want. One, because left-wing women are terminally naive. And two, they don't have a dogma. They have no core beliefs. Maybe the TERFs have kind of realized this and they've shifted away from the TRAs. If you don't follow the culture war, like, what the hell? A trans exclusionary feminist? A feminist that advocates for women's rights? Yeah, I thought that was feminism. Yeah, but you don't understand. Men have come into the feminist movement. Oh, that's cool. It's inclusive. It's for everyone. No, you're not following. These are men who have kind of taken over the feminist movement. Like, oh, that's weird. So is it like a egalitarian movement? No, not exactly. These are a different kind of. These are something else entirely. Anyway, it's like YouTube is such a bitch and I can't edit these videos. I let one little thing slip and you're like, there goes a hate speech strike. So if you want to see how subverted feminism has become in a few decades, they used to be against the adult industry because it was degrading and dehumanizing. They said to women, you look at it really and realize it's just degrading to everyone. It's a really, really dirty industry. And there's a constitutional argument to be had that it's not protected under the First Amendment. It's absolutely not. But I mean, it's like you saw the thing with the abortion ban. What was their cause of action? The connections with the 14th Amendment, I think, or the Fifth Amendment, due process or something. And you read the legal argument and you realize this is nonsense. Like, there's no, your issue rule analysis does not lead to the conclusion. And then they finally fixed it after 50 years. Like, this was weird in the first place. Anyway, but over about 20 years, they've slowly been brainwashed to accept it as sex positive, which is insane. There's no positive HIV to any form of the adult industries, whether it's the IRL stuff, if you know what I mean, or videos or OnlyFans. The modern feminism is now in the position of saying that they totally support it, even if the women don't really support it. They kind of have to support it because it's a consensus. Feminism in the left is a consensus model. You cannot stand, like, if you're on the left firmly in all regards, you're open borders, taxpayer funded, everything. But you're against like this one industry. You go, oh no, I don't think this is constitutionally protected speech. I think it should be a states' rights issue. I think because of the harm it does to children. There's various. You have various arguments to say that it needs to be under the strictest scrutiny and outlawed, and at least leave it to the state level to ban it. Then you're kicked out of the left-wing movement. You're no longer a feminist. Suddenly you're, yikes, my guy, toxic take, bad take, sex work is real work. You're like, no, that's toxic behavior. Why are you advocating for this? And they're advocating for it because they're not they're not the autonomous humans with agency. They have people who are manipulating them behind the scenes, or string pullers. Really, they're their own wall. I mean, they're Waldos. Really, they don't. It's just like a level of Waldos on top of Waldos. Anyway, so modern feminism is anti-family, anti-nation, definitely anti-Christianity. They want women to sleep around as much as possible and engage in every possible act of depravity that they can. They don't want them getting married young, having kids, and forming strong tribal structures. Oh, I put the videos on Subscribestar that are not allowed anywhere else. So if you're interested, so they're bullshies. They need people as rootless and cut off as possible. Turning women into whores destroys birth rates. It destroys families, relationships, and nations, and the ability of people to pair bond. We're not meant to be whores, men or women. That's not. That's the. There's a whole nother issue with like the men's side of that, with the like the Tate crowd and that kind of stuff. That's exactly what the bullshies want. All that kind of seeing each other as the issue. It's like, no, you're being manipulated from an outside. The goal is to get married and have kids and do it as young as possible. Rootless people are easily enslaved. Single women vote left wing. They essentially marry the state in the form of the taxpayer, and they will vote for social programs which single women use. So the left absolutely wants as many single women as possible for that voting base. If they don't have kids, they'll pick liberalism as their cause. You can see these angry liberal catwomen on Twitter who dedicate their lives to watching MSNBC and following United States Supreme Court decisions about abortion rights and nonsense. It's displacement behavior because they made the greatest mistake of their life in not having a family. It turns into sunk cost investment death spiral where they effed up their life and try to encourage young women to join them as single socialist parasites. They try to be the cool why not who is glad she's single so she can travel. It's the most pathetic, empty existence. You're like, oh, great, I went to Greece and then I went to Paris. I'm like, yeah, but maybe you went with your friends or maybe not, but it's like the other women have got like 3 kids and grandkids and family get-togethers, and you went to Greece. It's not the same. I mean, travel's great, but it's like you look at a family like, yeah, that doesn't compare. That's a deep level of brainwashing. If you can think travel, which is great, but there's no comparison to having a family. It's their orders of magnitude difference in terms of like deep primal connection. Like I went to Paris, like, yeah, but you don't have grandkids. You don't have kids. You don't have If they're honest, they'd warn young women of what cancer all this globalist advice is. For some reason, I got blocked from the Mary Sue comment section. It's been designed to lower birth rates, I'll say, of people who look like you. And that's a more complicated discussion because it's just a signal going out. The signal is designed to resonate with certain people who are attuned to that frequency. It's proven to be very effective at lowering birth rates of some groups and not others. Occasionally, a woman will write an article about being 35 and invisible to men and suddenly being, not happy about men just kind of overlooking them, which, male or woman, male or female, once you get past a certain age, a lot of it depends if you stay in shape or not. But yeah, you're going to be invisible to the opposite sex for sure. I mean, what did you expect? People are biological creatures. Like, it happens to men too. We just don't care about it. Or about missing their chance to get married and have kids when they're younger. It's absolutely brutal to read when some old lady dumped her boyfriend who wanted to get married at 20 so she could travel. Over the years, she sees him. I mean, this is an actual story from like Cosmo or something. At least some magazine published it. She sees him get married and has kids. And when she's 30, she's ready to settle down. But for some magic reason, the guys who have sex with her don't want to marry her or have kids with her. She keeps getting older and the relationships just never happen because you're supposed to have kids at 20 or even younger and not 30. It's insane how brainwashed people have become. If I was in charge, I'd be encouraging kids to meet their future spouse in high school, have kids, get married immediately, live at home, raise the kids with your parents, completely restructure the family dynamic so you can get birth rates up and have strong tribal connections, or have arranged marriages and obviously cancel the 19th. The direction that America has gone in is so off track. The globalist takeover of America over the past 80 years has destroyed the way people think about family because their parents don't raise them and teach them. Kids are programmed by government schools and brainwashed by TV. It's been like this for at least 50 years. It's much worse now if you're following what the schools are brainwashing these kids into. And anyone who disagrees with their genocidal globalist agenda is a far-right fascist. No, people have just been generationally brainwashed into accepting this bullshit propaganda. It's so ubiquitous that people don't notice it. You can awaken them by showing them videos of cities from decades ago, and then surveys and writings by people from past generations to see like what America used to be like. And the other thing is how smart the average American was, how cogent their argument was, their writings, the syntax, the word choice, the nomenclature, the lexicon, their vocabulary from writings from the 50s of just the average people writing letters back and forth. And you go further back, you're like, you're dropping in, Latin, Greek, and French words, and just the structure of the way they're putting sentences together. Like, this was a higher IQ population 50 years ago, and it was higher 100 years ago. Like, noticeably higher in the way they wrote and spoke, the way they articulated themselves, and when they're doing old black and white videos, interviews. It's a different population now. The dumbing down of America, it's much worse than what they're talking about. So they will slowly see how dangerously far left the window has shifted, and they're horrified as what has been done to America in the West by these demons. Their whole argument is nonsense. Strictly speaking, it's not an argument. It's a religious belief system where they assume things to be true, but they never prove them, and then they build a structure out of this erroneous model. It's a house on sand. So in this article, she mentions toxic masculinity. That's as amorphous as toxic femininity, or just insert any group you wish after toxic. It's nonsense. It's a way to poison the well and will never actually proving anything. They're able to introduce these nonsense Frankfurt School terms into the lexicon because they have total control of the media and almost total control over social media, which is why alternative social media got so popular. They don't have a counter argument from any media or university professor or books by mainstream publishers because there is no mainstream media that isn't globalist. You saw what happens occasionally when a professor disagrees. Brett Weinstein up at Evergreen, I think, and then I want to say Jared Taylor, but I'm almost confusing Jared Taylor and Jordan Peterson. Up in Canada, I think, they either get fired or they get paid off with a settlement to just resign because the kids would create such a toxic environment. I just read this article. It was some Ivy League law school, and the kids in the law school, there was some federal judge who was coming to speak, and he was appointed by a Republican, and they shouted him down. And like, this was a law school. These are, postgraduate future lawyers and judges and district attorneys who couldn't hear an opposing viewpoint or a viewpoint from the speaker that they disagreed with because he was probably a federal judge appointed by a Republican, something like that. And they're acting like children. I looked at that, I thought, oh my God. That's like one thing, like the college kids acting like children is bad enough, but law students, that's kind of the end of a nation right there. So college kids now are terrified of diversity of thought. They've been brainwashed their whole lives to think they're fighting Hugo Boss, and anyone who disagrees with what their idiot teachers told them is the greatest threat known to man. They're wholly incapable of thinking for themselves without getting group approval, because if they disagree with the group, they'll be outcast, kicked out of schools, fired, and be unpersoned. They've been taught what to think, not how to think. They're taught this cancer in schools, and there is one viewpoint. The idea that reasonable people could disagree on these topics is never taught in schools. There are no longer two sides to an issue. They have the right views, period. Everything they think they know has been taught to them by Hollywood or government schools. Dear white feminists, the globalists who run feminism want you to never have kids, or at least not kids who share your lineage. Every major media company is controlled by them who want you and your tribe's removal from this mortal coil. At some point, you can just stop and look at them and go, oh, they're the existential enemy. They're the enemy. Everything they say is evil. Everything they're pushing is evil, and it's against you. They don't want any of the things they claim to want. That's just a smokescreen. They just want bad things for you and your tribe. I mean, once you see that, you'll be joining us over on the right. Anyway, anyway, like, comment, subscribe, join me over Subscribe Star. I'll see you guys on the next episode.